This is a pole lathe, which makes round things out of wood.
I don't know if I should call this a pole lathe because it has a spring.
Oh.
The spring pole is the spring pole of the pole lathe.
Okay.
But this is a 10mm elastic, and I've got it doubled up so it has enough spring in it that it brings it back. This works for me for what I'm doing.
So it's basically a variation of a pole lathe, but functionally in terms of the work and the turning, it's the same.
It's doing the same job, yeah.
What wood did you say this was?
This is sycamore. You can see that wood just split right down that grain, and it's gorgeous grain. I mean, it's a lovely piece of wood. The current axe that I'm using is my favourite axe right now.
You use that for spoon carving, or?
I use this for spoon carving. I use it for axing my blanks when I'm making my bowls.
People love to give out.
Here's some stuff to give out. I'll put my leg here.
Give them some ammunition, go on.
I'll put my leg here so that if I miss, it'll go into my leg. Most of my axes are second-hand tools. They're from old sheds in France that my dad will collect them at brocants and stuff. They're in flitters when they get to me, and I'll home them back to something useful. The next part of that is to drill a hole in here. There's a few different ways of attaching this to the machine. One of the traditional ways with nails, basically little flat nails like screw heads are driven straight in, and then it's locked in place. That's something that we find remnants of from Viking times. They either use this or they use a square tenon, so that they make a square hole and stick a tenon in. What we do is a variation on that. These days we use a drill, and these are what we call mandrels. And I just make them as I need them. But a mandrel allows you to have the rope attached to this. It's a drive shaft, sticks in there, and like the nails, this is sticking in there, and like the square tenon, if you look at the mandrels, they're not perfectly flat. They flare out of the base. Yeah. And that flaring, with dry wood and the wet wood, the flaring kind of locks it in place because the wet wood kind of stretch a bit. This doesn't want to move, but the wet wood wants to go back to where it was, so it's grabbing onto this.
So it doesn't even need to be a square, it can be a circle.
Yeah. So that's what we'll do next.
Cool.
We need a drill. These things.
Yep.
Don't buy a new one.
No.
Anyone listening who makes the new ones, make them better. I bought one and it fell apart on me the first time I used it on something hefty.
Really?
The newer ones, there's little tiny springs of carbon steel in here, and they just shear and bend when you try and put them on something heavy. We've got our piece of wood, we've got our drill, and we have this mandrel has to fit in the hole there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
14, and a little bit. I know that is the depth I need to go.
That is the exact depth, 14 and a little bit.
14 and a little bit. I could go 15, it'd be fine. But
you're not going into the inside of the bowl?
I'm not going into the inside of the bowl, but I'm also making sure that this can fit deep enough. It starts off one tone and changes to another when it's located properly.
Oh yeah. Sounds much more solid.
That's not going anywhere, that's stuck. That's our drive shaft. This mushroom is going to become the bowl. We're going to have the head of this mushroom here. Is going to be the bowl, and by the end we'll take this away with a core around the middle. The core, that's that typical core.
Okay. So that's what will be left of the bowl.
And this is the bit that we find on archaeological sites all the time.
Oh really?
Because when a piece of wood is dead, bowl breaks, it's going to be used for kindling on the fire because you're using fire all the time. It's fire technology.
Yeah.
Nice piece of wood, nice and dry. Throw it on the fire the next time you need to start the fire up. Well, forgot. Stop. It's fine. As long as it's there.
So that starts up at the cord.
Cord comes down.
Cord comes down.
It's wrapped around a mandrel. It's going to be wrapped up down here.
And then you've got what, the tailstock can move up and down.
So yeah, we've got a poppet, and the poppet is held together with a wedge.
What's a poppet?
This thing.
That entire block.
Yeah. So that's a poppet. That's a poppet.
Okay.
And there's just a hole that's just ever so slightly deeper into the base here. So when I pop this through, this can move right now. I can move this where I need to. Mm-hmm. And then when I want it to stop, it's not moving.
Lovely.
Here we go. So that's the basic principle is everything's kind of held together with the wedges.
And then your tool rest.
The tool rest is just kind of
On a pivot.
on a little pivot, and when I need to move the tool to a particular place, I'll move to there. I'm working like that,
Okay.
and then I'll move it in if I need to get a bit closer.
I mean, the construction of the entire thing is like, did you make this yourself?
Yeah, this is all parts. So there was a little being built nearby. This was all hoardings that they were literally just throwing out. This was left over from a sawmill that I passed by. Same with the poppets here. They would have been firewood. These centres, I got them off of Sharif Adams over in Britain. He's an excellent bowl turner. He sold these to me since I've gotten the same kind of diameter just out of bits of the farm around here for my fleet. So that the extra ones that I've made, I just used what I had lying around here. Again, enough forging technology and understanding to put this bend in. But yeah, all these parts, like these uprights here, they were out of a hedge. The tool rest itself, this part, that was like a bit of a pallet, big hefty pallet. I think this was a leftover from another project we were doing at home. Just a couple of nails pulled from bigger bits of wood as well, like just to hold it in place. And the legs were the leftovers of some deer fencing we had put in here because we do have deer. We don't like having the deer moving through all the time. But they were just some leftover legs from that, leftover poles from that I cut in half basically.
God, it's remarkably simple.
Yeah, it's very simple.
Just a bunch of whatever pieces of wood, really.
Yeah, and like the foot plate here.
The foot plate, yeah.
Like that's the simplest you can get the foot plate really, but that's a bit of an old bar floor.
I was going to say it looks like a bit of a floorboard or something.
So I just there's a bar being pulled apart, and we saw some wood going spare, so we have a whole heap of this and bits and pieces in the garden made out of it as well, like so.
And that's anchored at the back here.
It's just anchored on this bit of wood, and while I'm working, depending on my need, I just kick the piece of wood over.
Okay.
So that like if I want to change legs, I can be on this leg, kick it over that way, I'm on this leg. So it just makes it as simple as possible. Everything about what I'm up to is trying to make something that's fairly complex as simple as possible. Green woodworkers are working with a bit of water in the wood, and it gives a different quality. I keep saying things like embrace the wonk. I'm having a dance with the wood. The wood wants to do a thing, I want to do a thing. We meet in the middle and we make something beautiful.
And you embrace the wonk.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the typical hook tool. These are either tool steel or car springs, mostly car springs that I've been using in the last while. But that little hook there, that's what allows me to turn and hollow out with a particular positioning. This is called a tip up because the blade, for a right-handed person, the blade is on the right facing the sky. We call them a tip up, and then there's other tools that have the blade on this side, we call them a tip down. There's lots of different names for the different tools. But they're really, hook tools is all you really need to know. But yeah, we have lots of different hooks. Most fun of which has been dubbed the politician. Politician is for doing the inside of cups. Some people use them, some people don't. You can get by with just a normal hook for hollowing out the inside of a cup. Because you're left with a core in the middle of the cup, you need to get in beside the core and hollow the cup from the inside out. But this hook is it's doubly crooked. That's why it's called the politician. Everyone kind of giggles when we talk about it, you know. So you have a bend in the hook, and then you have another bend in the hook. And there's a very particular use to this. It allows for a lot of smoothing on the inside.
It's very quickly starting to look like a bowl.
Yeah. One of the things about bowl turning with green wood on a foot-powered lathe is that you're trying to minimize your efforts at the end. So if you can get the hook to cut smoothly, you're not using any sandpaper, you're not finishing with chisels, you're finished your work when the bowl is off the lathe. When used properly, this should smooth out the cup to a particular smoothness. It's not going to be like plastic finish, but the smoothness is it's more like a very, very fine record. It has grooves in it from that movement of the machine. That's that.
So that's the outside done. Do you sand on the pole lathe in general?
I try not to.
Okay.
I'm not going to say I don't always.
Yeah.
I need to change that on my website. Like I try to minimize it because trying to do this a bit more production style. Like it's not full production, but it's like trying to get up to speed on things. Why would I give myself another process when I don't have to? So it's better to try and increase my skills so I don't need to use sandpaper. I don't hate sandpaper. I think it's vile, devilish stuff though. But no, but the whole point of sandpaper is to get a job done if you need to get it done.
Yeah.
And if I don't need to do that, then I don't need to. There's controversial opinions on sanding and non-sanding, and I think it's anyway it works for whatever you're doing. If you have a whole heap of wood that you need to go back to later, you've got a stack of bowls. Like just look over there.
Yeah.
Like all those bowls, if each of those is slightly unfinished, that's a lot of extra work.
It is.
With sandpaper. And the green woodwork, when it warps, it'll end up changing shape significantly.
Yeah.
The foot on ceramics and on wood, when it warps, you'll end up with at least 3 points of contact at any particular point, so stop it wobbling too much.
Oh yeah.
You see it on ceramics as well. If you look on ceramics, there's a little bit of a wobble.
Okay.
Ceramics heats and
then
shrinks in
back
itself.
in.
Yeah.
Any other interesting chisels, or they're all just variations of different, slight different hooks?
Yeah. The only other one is this one, is the lightning strike, and there's variations on the lightning strike as well. So
the lightning strike.
It's called a lightning strike because it goes. That's quite a fine little hook that I have on this. This is one of my chisels that I use for hollowing out cups. So if I'm hollowing out a cup, I need to get down. The cup's sitting like that, but I have a piece of wood here that I need to get down into. That's going to be sitting there, and I need to hollow that out. I need to hollow this out to get the cup out. And once that's at depth, it gets kind of awkward to use a flat chisel up against this rope as it spins.
Okay.
So it's better to have something a bit closer, so that can get down in between these 2 points.
Okay, I get you, yeah.
And once that's done, then the politician comes in, and the politician hook, you're starting at the bottom of that hollow there, and you're coming up inside there, and that's how you smooth the inside. Best gauge I can find is these.
The finger gauge.
Very direct. No, who's sweating more, me or the wood?
I can feel it there. I was like, is it rain coming in? Oh no.
A little bit of burnishing. A little bit of excess water off of it. I suspect there was an apprentice job years ago to just keep doing this until the wood was as dry as possible.
Oh yeah?
Just to get them used to the flow of the machine.
Yeah, oh yeah.
This and bowl ranking was an apprentice's job.
Right.
I think. That's hollowed. I'm going to flip it so I can finish off that button so there's less carving to do. You can break at this point, it doesn't matter. I can do it by hand.
So you're going to clean up this central little nub?
Yeah. And I'm doing courses like this in the summer.
Oh yeah.
I recommend everyone bring their own towel. And like any good hitchhiker across the galaxy knows, everyone should always know where their towel is. Right there. As close as I can to the base. Nice little button there, very thin. I mean, it's much easier to clean up, so there's less wood to remove. And we've gotten past the point of this. The next part is how to make a bowl out of a mushroom. Face the grain to the sky, the grain of the wood. Rub it here. Now it's a bowl.
As easy as that?
Just as easy as that.
And then you...
We're going to take these away. So what I tend to do is I take one of my many spoon knives. You can get special finishing knives. Spoon knife will do the job though. There's a little nubbin on the inside here. We need to finish that off. It's the same as this basically. To do that, I'll have a you see the remnants of the
Yeah.
that's that outside done. And then
Remarkably clean, like.
so if you're looking at any old woodenware like this, you'll know that this is the these are one of the tellers. This one, and then specifically this one. Like if I get this out, there's going to be a little hand carved bit in the middle. That's what we're going to tell you. That's where this bowl came from. Between that and the kind of grooves, like the kind of record mark grooves around the edge, that's how you can kind of tell something was made this way. So that's the bowl.
Beautiful.
Put that back down.
Well, we have power again.
Come back. That's what you're going for on
Wow.
this machine.
That is so clean, like.
The whole that's what I'm saying about, like, ideally no sandpaper. It's done.
No.
Right.
Like, wow. I'm very impressed. And your little ornamental kind of little grooves there.
There's something that you can do with a bit of skill. These two sets of bowls, they are made with a particular tool to get in between one lump of wood and another off of one big bowl blank. So if I have half of a log, that whole thing is one half of a log. I pop that bowl off, I make another one, I pop that off, I make another one, and you could keep going depending on the size of the wood with the right tools.
Multiple bowls from the one piece of wood.
Multiple bowls from the one piece of wood, so they're called nesting bowls because they nest into each other.
And you're not just turning it all into chips.
Yeah, you're saving your efforts if you get your skill good enough. Yeah, that's the whole point. So, like if this was a big enough bowl, I could have a set of 6 down, you know.
That's very cool. And they'll obviously share the same grain.
Yeah. So if you look, if I try and level the grain up,
Yep.
that's the grain off of that one. It's the grain off of that one.
Yep.
That's the grain off of that one. Somewhere in there is all the same piece of wood all the way through.
Yep.
Each one is connected, you know. So traditionally these were either sold as sets or broken up into different parts.
What wood are they?
This one is alder, and I made that at the bowl gathering that I'm wearing the t-shirt for this year. I made a tool with a great blacksmith carver called Matty Whittaker. I'm very grateful for his time and efforts. He was showing me how to make the nesting tool. This nesting hook it has a bend in it,
Okay.
and the bend is to allow, if I have a piece of wood that is solid here, I want to get into that curve. So you would use, mostly you're using a normal hook tool to dig down, but then when it gets too far you need to get this to bring it in.
That last little bit.
Get in, and you can see that kind of doesn't fully conform to the shape, but it conforms enough that when I break it out, I can turn the outside of this again,
Okay.
and so on and so on. That's what this hook tool is for, nesting hook. Knowing how to make your own tools is really important, I think, because you can buy a tool off of someone who's making, but if you're waiting on a particular shape to do a particular job, or you have a particular thought about going somewhere, having a little bit of forging knowledge and blacksmithing knowledge and having a forge is going to increase your abilities tenfold.
So with those little blacksmith skills, if you can dream it, you can do it.
Yeah,
Instead of those being limitations.
yeah.